There comes a moment in every relationship where silence becomes louder than words, where glances are more telling than arguments, and where walking away feels easier than staying and trying one more time. Maybe you're in that moment right now. Maybe you're staring at your phone, rereading the last thing she said, trying to decode the words, searching for the old spark in a string of texts that now feel cold. Or maybe you're not talking at all anymore. No fights, no apologies. Just space. A quiet space that once was filled with love, jokes, plans, and connection. And now, it's full of confusion, frustration, and the burning temptation to just let it all go. Before you do, stop. This video isn't here to tell you to chase her, beg her, or fight for something toxic. This is not about manipulation, obsession, or fantasy. This is about understanding, about clarity, about you reclaiming your peace, your purpose, and your power, even in love. Through the timeless lens of Stoicism, we're going to walk through powerful lessons about attachment, expectation, desire, pain, forgiveness, and self-respect. Because Stoicism isn't about being emotionless. It's about having the strength to control how you respond when everything inside of you is falling apart. What does it mean to love someone deeply, but not become a slave to their absence? What does it mean to stay kind, composed, and rational when emotions threaten to drown your better judgment? And most importantly, what do you do when you're on the edge of giving up on her? You don't need to be a philosopher to understand this. You just need to be someone who's felt heartbreak. And if you're here, I already know. You've been through a lot. But let's not give up just yet. Let's talk. One of the core principles of Stoicism is this. It's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. These words from Epictetus hit harder when love starts to hurt, because it's not just what she did or didn't do that's breaking you. It's what you expected her to do. Maybe you thought she'd never stop caring the way she used to. Maybe you thought she would never talk to someone else. Maybe you believed she'd understand, forgive, or fight for the relationship the same way you did. But she didn't. And now that gap between what you expected and what reality has delivered, that's where the pain lives. Stoicism teaches us not to suppress that pain, but to understand it. Pain in love isn't always about betrayal. Sometimes it's about disappointment. Sometimes it's about not being seen the way you hope to be. Sometimes it's about watching someone change into a version of themselves you don't recognize. But what if you could remove the sharp edge of that pain? What if you could stop blaming her for what she didn't do and start releasing your grip on what you thought should happen? This doesn't mean you become indifferent or stop caring. It means you allow people to be who they are, not who you wish they were. That's the difference between a stoic and a victim of emotion. A stoic accepts the situation, even if it hurts, and works within the reality they're given. A stoic doesn't chase ghosts of what used to be. And that's where you start to take back control. The moment you stop expecting her to return the text the way she used to, the moment you stop hoping she'll suddenly understand your silence, the moment you stop waiting for her to validate the love you still feel. That's the moment you start to find peace again, not because she gave it to you, but because you gave it to yourself. So the question becomes, if she never comes back, can you still be whole? That's the test Stoicism prepares you for. One of the most misunderstood ideas in Stoicism is detachment. People think it means coldness, disinterest, a lack of love. But true Stoic detachment doesn't mean you love less. It means you love with clarity, with balance, without ownership. You can care for her deeply and still not collapse if she walks away. You can want to build a life with her and still not make her the center of your universe. You can give your heart without letting it become your prison. Detachment is freedom. It doesn't say, I don't love you. It says, I love you enough to let you be who you are, even if that means I'm not part of your story anymore. Because the truth is, The tighter you grip someone, the faster they slip away. And the more you define your happiness through their actions, the more you lose control of your own life. Seneca once said, "He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary." That's what attachment does. It makes you suffer imaginary outcomes, fictional fears, future betrayals that haven't even happened. You start rehearsing heartbreak before it's even real. But what if you didn't? What if you could show up with love, not demand, not fear, and say, "I choose you, but I also choose myself"? That's where strength lives, because love without detachment becomes possession. Love with detachment becomes power. When you stop trying to hold on so tightly, something incredible happens. You breathe. You stop panicking over the what-ifs. You show up with presence, not pressure. And maybe, just maybe, she notices that too. Maybe your calm becomes more attractive than your chase. But even if she doesn't, you remain whole. That's the part most people never reach. They either lose themselves in love or harden into bitterness when it ends. But Stoicism teaches a different way: to love honestly, to let go gracefully, to live freely. And that brings us to the next question. What do you do with all the emotions that are still storming inside you? Let's get one thing straight. Stoicism does not ask you to kill your emotions. It asks you to understand them, to be their master, not their slave. You're allowed to feel heartbreak. You're allowed to miss her. You're allowed to feel anger, betrayal, confusion, and even regret. But you're not allowed to let those feelings control your life. There's a storm inside every broken heart. One moment you want to text her, the next you want to block her. One minute you're missing her laugh, the next you're remembering the lies. It's chaos, a loop of pain that never seems to end. But here's what a Stoic would say: you don't have to react to every thought that enters your mind. You can feel something and not act on it. You can think about her and not reach out. You can be angry and still choose silence. Marcus Aurelius journaled, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Even in love, especially in love, your discipline is your superpower. And this is where you must rise. Rise above the urge to send one last emotional message. Rise above the need to be validated by her response. Rise above the drama your emotions are begging you to create. Because if you give in, you don't just lose her, you lose yourself. Control is not about suppression, it's about choice. You can feel everything and still decide, "I won't let this moment define me." In fact, your power lies in your pause. That sacred second between what you feel and what you do. That's where peace is born. Imagine she texts you out of nowhere. Your heart races, your mind fills with old memories and new fantasies. But instead of reacting, you breathe. You read. You think. You don't reply just to feel something. You don't chase just to escape the silence. You sit with the emotion. You honor it. Then you ask, what does reason say? And reason will always speak softly but clearly. If this love is meant for you, it won't need to be forced. So when the emotional waves come crashing, let them hit you, but don't drown. Feel them, then stand again. That's what Stoicism looks like in love. There's a weight heavier than heartbreak, heavier than loneliness, heavier than even betrayal. And that weight is resentment, especially when it's aimed at someone you once loved. You think about what she said, what she didn't say, what she did when you were at your most vulnerable. And it haunts you. You replay the moment she stopped trying, the time she made you feel replaceable, the silence that followed 1,000 promises. You start carrying that pain everywhere, into your sleep, into your work, into your future relationships. It becomes your armor, your justification, your invisible prison. But Stoicism gives you a key, a hard one to turn, but powerful nonetheless. Forgiveness. Not because she deserves it, Because you do. Forgiveness doesn't mean what she did was right. It doesn't erase the past. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." You're not just mad at her, you're hurting yourself again and again through the memory of what she did. And maybe worse, you're mad at yourself too. Mad for not seeing it coming, mad for trusting too deeply, mad for staying longer than you should have. But here's what you must understand. You did the best you could with the heart you had at the time. Self-forgiveness is just as important as forgiving her. You can't move forward while blaming yourself for every broken piece. You were learning, loving, hoping. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. So what if you let go? What if you stopped waiting for closure? What if you stopped wishing she'd say sorry? What if you gave yourself permission to say, "It happened, it hurt, but it no longer defines me"? Forgiveness doesn't mean you go back to her. It means you stop going back to the pain. And from that place, real strength rises. You walk lighter. You breathe deeper. You see clearly. Because when you let go of what was, you create space for what could be. That's not defeat. That's transcendence. After the silence, the memories, the anger, and the letting go, comes something harder, the emptiness, the question of identity. The one you never thought you'd have to ask, who am I without her? Because when you love someone deeply, they become part of your internal world. Your habits, your future plans, your bedtime thoughts. And when they're gone, it's like a part of you has vanished too. But this, my friend, is the sacred moment of transformation. The void is not your end. It's your beginning. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the time to turn inward, not to hide, not to sulk, but to rebuild. Not the broken pieces of who you were, but the evolved version of who you can become. Rebuilding starts with silence, not the silence of waiting for a text, but the silence where you begin to hear your own thoughts again. You start reconnecting with the things you once loved before her, the passions you shelved, the goals you put on pause, the person you were before you gave too much away. Then slowly, day by day, you create structure, discipline, a daily rhythm. You take control of what you can, your habits, your health, your surroundings, your time. That's what Stoicism teaches. Start with what is in your control and let go of what isn't. She may have left, but your principles haven't. She may not see you, but you can still see your purpose. She may have broken your heart, but she did not break you. And this part of the journey, it's not about proving her wrong. It's not about making her jealous. It's not even about showing the world how strong you are. It's about standing in front of the mirror and seeing someone you respect again. Someone who can walk away from what no longer serves him. Someone who can choose peace over drama. Someone who can say, "I loved fully and I let go with grace." That's the man Stoicism shapes you into. A man who isn't cold, but calm. A man who isn't heartless, but centered. A man who doesn't need someone to complete him because he already knows who he is. This is your rebuilding phase. Treat it with sacred intention, because the life you create now, it won't just heal your heart, it will elevate your soul. At some point, she becomes a memory, not sharp, not soft, just there. A part of your story, but not the main character anymore. And that's when something unexpected happens. You start to feel again, not the old pain, not the constant questioning, but the subtle return of curiosity, openness, the quiet whisper of a question you thought you'd buried. Could I love again? And the answer is yes. But this time, it won't be the same, because you've changed. You're not walking into love looking for someone to fix your loneliness. You're not searching for validation or trying to relive the warmth you lost. You're approaching love with awareness, clean, grounded, calm awareness. Epictetus said, "Only the educated are free, and now you're emotionally educated. You've been through the fire, and you know what burns. More importantly, you know what's real. You won't fall for empty words. You won't rush into connections that feel good but lack depth. You won't confuse attention with affection or chemistry with commitment. You'll love deliberately, mindfully, stoically. Not with fear but with presence. Not with obsession but with respect. Not with control but with clarity. This next time you'll ask better questions. Not, does she like me? But can we build peace together? Not, will she stay? But can I be myself when she's around? And if the answer is no, you'll walk away. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your own peace to compromise it again. That's the real strength Stoicism gives you. The ability to love without attachment, to care without losing control, to choose someone with your eyes wide open, not just your heart wide open. And when love comes again, and it will, you won't chase it. You'll welcome it. You'll be able to say, I'm not here to complete you, and you don't need to complete me. But if we can grow together, I'm all in. That's powerful. That's rare. And that's exactly the kind of love that lasts. You made it. Through the pain, through the questions, through the late nights staring at your ceiling, wondering what went wrong. And more than that, you didn't just survive. You evolved. That's what Stoicism gives you. Not escape, not numbness. Mastery. The mastery of emotion, the mastery of love, the mastery of self. You now understand that love is not ownership. It's not validation. It's not drama. Love, in its highest form, is the freedom to feel without fear and the strength to walk away without hate. You've faced the toughest battles, not outside but inside. You wrestled with your ego. You calmed your rage. You made peace with the silence. And from that inner war, a new version of you emerged. Calmer, wiser, more centered. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And now your thoughts are no longer stained by bitterness, jealousy, or despair. They're clean, they're clear, they're calm. You've learned to love without losing yourself, to let go without begging, to stay grounded even when your world shakes. This journey wasn't about her, it was about you. She may never know how much you grew. She may never see the strength you built. And that's okay, because you didn't do it to prove anything. You did it because your peace is more important than proving a point. And now as you step forward, whether love returns or someone new enters your life, you walk with wisdom. You walk with standards, not walls. With clarity, not coldness. With love, but not dependency. That's Stoicism. That's freedom. That's power. And if you felt this message, if it woke something up in you, if it reminded you of the strength that was always inside you, then don't just leave with silence. Hit that subscribe button. Because this channel isn't just about knowledge, it's about evolution. It's about mastering your emotions, your purpose, your relationships, and your life. The Stoic way. Every video here is a step toward the man you're meant to become. So stay, grow, learn, rise, because you're not broken. You're just becoming unshakable. See you in the next video.